Hello everyone, welcome to another video. You are watching Daily Dose of Tech, a dedicated playlist where we discuss new things from the world of tech, right? And from the past couple of days, we are working and discussing about Azure Bicep, which is an infrastructure as a deployment service, or I can say a code used to deploy your infrastructure on Azure. We have covered a lot of different topics for last, I guess, 2 weeks, and we are about to come to an closure, right? Uh, there is few more topics that are left here in Azure Bicep, and that we'll be covering in this video. I'll start with just one topic because of lack of time. I still have to, keep publishing one video every day, so I'll just gonna do a small topic from the Azure Bicep which we missed in the previous discussions, and that is Azure variables. Bicep variables. How to define variables in your Bicep file so that you can reuse and bring more flexibility to your program, to your Bicep file. So without wasting a time, let's just directly jump into our slides. And yeah, if you are new to this channel, so I am your friend Nishko, and I make videos on tech, and in this channel you will get everything that's related to tech. We are still learning, we are still growing, so we are still making a lot of content, a lot of videos that are already present. But if you want to hear and view in a different way, then please check out all the other videos on this channel. You can obviously subscribe to my subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can follow me on Instagram. If you want to connect me professionally, you can connect me on LinkedIn. If you want to ask me anything about anything, so you can always reach out to me on X. All the notes, all the source code, everything is available on my GitHub link. And the most important thing, if you want to join the tech community that we are building, where people can join and do coding together and everything, you are free to join our Discord channel. We are trying to build the biggest tech community available online, and where everybody can join and work and learn together. So yeah, without wasting a time, I'll just quickly go through whatever we have discussed, and then we'll go directly to the Azure official documentation. So we started with the definition of Bicep. We already covered so many times. Then we understand about the different ways to do the deployment. Then what are the benefits of Biceps, what's the importance of scope when working with Bicep, Azure resources providers and types, what are they and what's the importance of them, installing Biceps, how to write our first Bicep file, how to deploy that Bicep file, and then what is the difference between resource name and deployment name in Bicep, working with the parameter file, a few important Bicep keywords, Bicep data types, difference between import and using, user-defined types, existing resource keyword, dependency, extension, loops and conditions, and finally variables for today's video. So we have covered everything in the previous videos, but if you are new and wants to just look around, please go and visit them and check all those videos. But the main goal is that once we complete all the concepts around Azure Biceps and a couple of examples, I am gonna bring up a new dedicated playlist for Azure Bicep and how you can master it using the ultimate guide. This Daily Dose of Tech is kind of an experimental series where I come and just prepare my content so that I just don't miss the chance to publish every day. Okay, without wasting a time, let's go to our browser, and I have already opened the variables here. So you can always go to the Azure Bicep official documents and you will find this thing, and you can come down and here you will get the variable. So variable is there are two things which you can use to provide input to your modules or to your resource. One is the variable and one is the parameter. The difference between two of them is that variable is not gonna accept the input from the parameter file. So variable is kind of a static value that you define initially just to based on some combinations or some prefix that you want to add to create a variable name, to create a name or something. Depending upon the parameter and some static value, you end up creating a new definition, something. So all those things, all the static values can be defined by variables. So let's just check out the basic concepts of variables. So variables is kind of limited to 500 12 variables in your bicep files, which I don't think anybody can gonna use that much, because otherwise it will be very hard to manage the names and constraints. How to define a variable? So to define a variables, you can just type the var keyword and the name of your variable and the value which you wanted to provide. Also, you can provide the description about that variable, what it's gonna do, by using a decorator and providing an argument here. For example, how to define a variable? So here is an example like var. So we gave a name string var and we added some value present variable. Now we can use to create parameter of, we can provide the values to parameter using variables. So we have a variables we define, first variable, second variable, third variables, and preset variables, and we are adding this string variables to add to VR and input variables to input. So this whole thing is going to add to parameter, right? And whatever comes out to be this whole variable value, we are just directly assigning it to the parameter. So which you think okay, so contact to param, contact to var, and contact to param. Input value. Okay, so we have used here input values, so that variable is going to have this input value plus your some extra text, and that is going to store in the contact to param. And contact to variable, which is a type of variable where you are going to store this variable value here, and you will add to variable. And if you see the output of this, it's gonna show you the deployment parameter to add to param and preset to add variable. So deployment parameter is coming up here. If I just search this word, so this variable is coming up in the final output here as a value, because here deployment parameter is kind of input, it's stored in the input value, and input value is kind of added to make the concat to param variable, right? So this variable is being constructed from the input value and some extra keywords, or I'll say words in the end, and the whatever the calculated values comes out to be for concat to param, that's being added to add to parameter, that's been assigned to add to parameter, right? So that's how you define and use your variables. You can use it, you can add one variable value to another variable value, and you can add one variable value to a parameter value, but the vice versa I guess is not present. And we can use Azure Bicep functions, which is a function to construct the variable values. The following example it's showing. So basically storage, so there is a concept that in storage accounts and keywords you have to be very unique about the names. So what you can do, you can add some prefix and some unique string from the resource group ID, so that it can create that, and that's how unique storage name it's gonna be generated. And yeah, now basically what are typed variables? So Bicep supports typed variables, which means you are defining the data type of that variables before the variable itself judges what's the type is going to be. So why this is beneficial? It's beneficial for error detections, code clarity, intelligence support, and refactoring safety. So basically for all these features, we prefer to provide a data type to a variable name and with the variable value. So that's how here we have some examples: resource name string, my resource, instant count int 3 is production tool, bull. This variable is of type bull, tags is of type object, subnet is of type array, and we have defined some values to all it. This is gonna help us in referring these variables later on the video, and then we can define basically it's gonna make our code more readable. And if you see, the values are gonna be here, and for objects type you can define schema to enforce a specific structure. We can define the schema, and that schema will be used to define as when assigning the values to it. Taking some more examples, here we have a description for environment parameter. That's a parameter which has a value of dev, and it can be only allowed these values, and we have added the descriptions. Then we have defined an instance count, which is gonna be if there is a prod, we assign it 5, or if not, then we assign it 2. Resource prefix is gonna be app. We have defined it a default value. Then we have a tags, which is a type of object with its own schema, and that we are defining it here. And then everything we are using it here. So starting with resource prefix, which is I guess coming up from here, app, and app storage and instance counts are coming from the environment. West US is location, nothing is required, and this queue. So basically here we showed how we can use it as a type int and uses a conditional expression. So because it was an int, that's why it and we were able to use it in the string. Now we'll see some examples of using iterative loops. Iterative loops are something that you can objects array, you can kind of iterate over a range of values, and you can define that the upper limit or the end of the range or the length of the range as early, and then you can iterate it throughout that. And what it will do, it will add that value as a my data disk, and that I, which is a variable, is coming from here from the range, and that will be assigned as the calculation at the end. That's how we can use the iterative values, and iterative values is gonna give some unique name, which is very important for some of the resources, right? We can write some expressions, or for example description and export we can write, so that we can use those things and understand what the variable is more clearly. And using export, we can export that variable to a different file, and this way we will be able to use all the reusable variables across the Bicep files. That's very important, and it's gonna be one of the most productive way to write and organize your Bicep file. I'll show you in some time. So that's how it's going to look, and yeah, that was pretty much about the variables that we have discussed. It's kind of a very important, and how I can say, it's one of the most used keywords whenever you are authoring a Bicep file, because it gives you the flexibility to define and get more unique names using many ways, right? And yeah, you can assign it to a variable, so it's kind of a reusable, and you can assign that value to a parameter itself, so which turns out to be gives more flexibility the way you want to write your Bicep file. Alright guys, that's all for today's videos. Thanks for watching. It was a short one of 12 minutes, around 15 minutes, but yeah, we are coming to a closure of Bicep, and we will be going to pick another topic where we will be discussing some new things about the Azure. And parallelly, I'll be working on creating the ultimate guide to Azure, where Azure Bicep, where I will be explaining you everything that we have covered here in a more organized and with proper notes. So without obviously it's not a starting intro, so thanks for watching. If you like the video, please do subscribe and follow for more. See you tomorrow.